How is everybody today? We're going to be doing a little backtracking. I am actually fixing to go through the process of removing my front bumper cover to remove my aftermarket front mount intercooler to replace it with a CV Fab race intercooler that I've gotten. And then once I've gotten that intercooler off and installed the new CV Fab race intercooler, I will be installing my front mount intercooler on my wife's 2019 EcoBoost Premium. And the reason I'm doing this is because I am gotten to a point in my power levels that it's time to upgrade that. And I will also be upgrading to the CV Fab charge pipes with the Tial blow-off valve fitting on it, and putting a Tial blow-off valve on there through this install process. I'm going to try to be as detailed about it as I can. Bear with me. It's been a while since I've done a video, and when I installed this intercooler last time I didn't get to do a video for it, so in a way we're doing a little backtrack and going backwards and going to do a little coverage on that. So y'all stick with me and enjoy. Thank you for watching. Okay, to start this process, we first want to remove these plastic pop rivets in our engine bay cover here at the front of the car. And then there's also some pop rivets back here in the fenders that we want to remove. Sometimes you got to turn the steering wheel all the way left or all the way right to clear the best you can. And then there's a series of screws down all along the underside of the front bumper that we need to remove. I will show you as we get into that process. Right now I'm just going over everything that must be removed to remove this front bumper cover off the car. Let's pop these tabs up just like so. You use a small screwdriver. I've got a little pry tool that I've had for years that tends to work good for these things. Pop them up like so and give them a little pop out there. They can be difficult sometimes. I've seen some cars that these guys can pull them out by hand, and there's some of them that you got to use a tool. Through here like so. You should have 8 of these. And once I get this off, I will show you underneath what we have to remove. Make sure you put all your items and keep them together so you do not lose them. Alright, now once you've gotten that off, along the front you'll see a series of bolts going in. You have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I believe those are 8mm 5/16, and then 2 smaller ones on the end. I'll get that socket size once I get ready to remove those and let y'all know what they are. Ignore all this wiring. It goes to some red LEDs that I have in here that light everything up. Just ignore that if you will. I'll be back with you in a moment. Okay, for these next steps, you'll want to use a floor jack in jack stands or wheel chocks that you can raise the front end of your car off the ground so that you can gain easy access underneath the car. And while you have the front end up, it makes it easy so that you can just turn the steering wheel left and right to gain clearance to those plastic pop rivets in the fender well. Okay, for this next section, we're going to use a 7/32 socket to remove these bolts, little bolts on the end. 8mm for these bolts here going across the top covering. And then we have a 9/32 socket that we'll use for all the bolts on the skid plate. Now for this next step, some of you may have 2 10mm nuts on each side of the fender up in there that holds the front bumper cover on. You'll either have that, or you may actually have like some pop tabs up in there depending on your year model and build. Mine's a 2020, so it has the two nuts up in there. And what I'll do is I'll get my electric ratchet over there with a 10mm and reach up in there behind this and take those nuts loose. And then there's a little block that you can pry out of there, pops down, and separates the front bumper from the front of the car. Now, with your skid plate removed, you want to reach up in here. I've already unplugged mine. That goes to my turn signals. You'll reach right up there. You'll see it plugged in up here. And it'll have a little tab on it. You squeeze down and pull it off. You want to do that on both sides before pulling the front bumper cover off. At this point, the only thing holding on is a couple little plastic tabs up top. And when you reassemble, make sure that you plug those back in before you get it all assembled, or else you're going to have some problems and you'll have to go through a little bit of trouble to reach in there and get them hooked back up. Here's a look at my CV Fab race core intercooler, and the hardware is still in the bag, of course, which I'll kind of go into that in a little bit. And then the front mount intercooler that I'm removing, which you can kind of can't see it because my louvers are in the way, which I'll get to that as well. But it's a Mishimoto type front mount intercooler that I purchased off of eBay. I can't remember the company, but it's one of those knockoffs, and it's been a great intercooler for the year. It's just time for me to upgrade. So if you're on the fence about one of the cheap eBay knockoff intercoolers for the EcoBoost, they work. My charge air temps were excellent on this car, but like I said, my modifications and my power level expectations have exceeded the limitations on this particular intercooler, and I've had to go to a bigger intercooler. Now, to remove the louvers, the active shutter system, you're going to take these two bolts loose. There's a bolt there you'll take loose, and a bolt there you'll take loose, and two plastic pop rivets that you'll pry out and pop out. The bolts are 8mm, if I'm not mistaken. The bolts to remove the active grille shutters are 8mm. And like I said, to get these pop rivets, you got to pop loose. Now, once you've gotten all the hardware out, on the back side of the active shutter system, there's an armature that goes down there. If you'll reach down there, you'll feel two bolts, and they're 7/32. You have to remove those so that you can separate that armature to pull the active shutter system off. If not, you'll be hung up. Now, for the CV Fab race intercooler to go in there, the active grille shutter system must be removed. So what we're going to do is take a small screwdriver or pry tool and pry these tabs back one by one to pop them out of there. And behind there is a little motor that we're going to take out. Now be careful taking this apart to get that motor out, because at some point you may want to put this back in for whatever reason, go back to stock. You never know, and you don't want to destroy it. So let's try to keep it in one piece and get our motor out of there. Once you've pried that cover off, you'll see the motor. It will be stuck in there until you take this little locking piece right here and pull that tab back and pop that piece out. That's what holds the motor in, just like so. It'll separate and come out. Lay it back down. Alright, I've got my front mount intercooler out, which you can see right here. And normally, this crossbar right here is normally mounted between these 2 points. These rubber mounting bushings come in the CV Race intercooler kit, and all you're going to do is screw them in like so on both sides. And what that does is makes it a lower mounting section. Now, I haven't checked yet, but I may have to remove this front bumper bar to install the intercooler and then reinstall it once done. I'm going to check, and I will let you know if I do or if I don't. Because if I don't have to remove it, I'm not going to. Now, there are two larger rubber bumpers that are in the CV Race intercooler's parts bag. They screw into the top mounts on the intercooler. And then when you come back around, there's a 13mm bolt here and a 13mm bolt here that you're going to remove so that you can mount these little square brackets up there. You're going to mount them loosely until you get the intercooler up in there, and then you'll tighten everything up there at the end. They'll go up in there just like this. Alright, next we got to take a razor knife and cut along that line on that side and the same on this side to take these flaps out so that this will clear when we install it. Alright, so indeed, to install the CV Fab race intercooler, you do have to remove the front bumper bar. There's 4 13mm bolts on each side. The 2 inner bolts have a nut on the back side that's 13mm. If you'll loosen that nut 2 or 3 turns before you start to loosen it, because it is threaded here as well, you can just use an impact or ratchet and run that bolt out while holding that nut on the back side. But make sure you loosen it up 2 or 3 turns on the back side. This one here is going to be a little tougher to gain access to, but it can be done. Okay, we're going to take a quick look. I've got everything mounted up, lined up, got the bumper back installed. You just reinstall all the hardware in reverse order you took it from. I didn't see fit to get video of something you just went through taking apart. If you can take it apart, you should be able to put it back together. That's how everything's mounted in. Next, I got to get up on here and do the fun part and get the intake tube boots on. I'm running a set of Rev 9 pipes, waiting for my CV fabrication pipes to come in. They'll come later in this video. Okay, so here we are 2 days later after charging the CV Fab race intercooler, and my CV Fab charge pipes have finally come in, and we're going to go through the process of removing my Rev 9 charge pipes and installing the CV Fab charge pipes with the Tial blow-off valve connection. Okay, in order to remove your factory or aftermarket charge pipes, if you're using a factory replacement set by a manufacturer that matches those specs, what you're going to have to do, in my opinion, and the way I like to do it, is we're going to remove the air intake tube, we're going to remove the connections to the PCV valve system, and we're going to remove the connection at the turbo and pull that pipe out, and then we're going to loosen all our clamps off at our charge pipes up top, and then we will go down below, which I'll get more footage showing that. We'll go down below to the lower clamps and loosen those off on both sides, and we will remove our pipes out. As we go through the process, I will show you a little more detail. I have other videos on this already, so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but just kind of wanted to fill in the blanks with my race intercooler install and kind of show you once again how to remove this equipment and install other equipment. In this video, I am going to show the difference between the Rev 9 charge pipes and the CV Fab charge pipes. Okay, here we are. We have both sets of charge pipes next to each other, and I'm going to show you the main reason why I am actually doing this upgrade. And a lot of you are going to go, that's nuts, but my main reason, so you look right here on the Rev 9 pipes, you have a reduction in size down to about a 2-inch pipe from a 2.5-inch pipe, whereas the CV Fab pipes maintain the same diameter throughout the entire length of the pipe. But on the Rev 9, it reduces it down. That's the main reason I'm doing this change. I figured I'm already in here, I'm already doing it, and I already got to buy a set of charge pipes for my wife's EcoBoost, so why not? I'm, already mid-11s with my existing setup. What's just a little bit extra, right? So a lot of you in the comments are going to go, well, that's dumb. Well, you know what? If I got to buy an extra set, I might as well update what I've got. She's not looking to push her car as far as I am, so we're just going to swap over the pipes onto her car, and I'm going to use the CV Fab. This is the finished product with the CV charge pipes installed with the Tial blow-off valve. I'm gonna tell you, you might as well go ahead and jack up the front of the car. That way you can get up under there to get the lower boots on and rotate them and angle them, because I'm gonna tell you, it's kind of a fight. I'm halfway considering sending an email over to CV Fabrications about the boots and see if they have a remedy, or if they know that they're sending out boots that are a little bit too small, too tight of a fit. I know they want their pipes to be able to fit on the stock intercooler and such and not be loose. I get that, but they might consider asking their customers, if they're using the race intercooler or a factory intercooler, That way they can send the right boots, because I'm going to tell you, if I'd known that it was going to be this kind of a pain in the butt to put those pipes on because of those boots, I probably would have looked at other options. Give me just a moment, and I'm going to give her a crank up and let y'all hear what the tile blow-off valve sounds like and whatnot. All in all, the install really wasn't that bad for the race intercooler and the CV charge pipes. The biggest issue that I ran into, like I said, was with the lower boots that go to the CV Fab charge pipes, which I think I'm going to send an email over to them, you know, inquiring about that. Not that I want to tell them their business, but I mean, as a customer, you know, that's kind of going to be a big gripe. You know, I'm pretty seasoned as a mechanic, so I can only imagine an 18-year-old kid that's never done such a thing before. He's going to be mind-boggled. How do I get these things on here? And I'm going to tell you, hairspray, I even used some Lysol spray because I ran out of hairspray, and you just got to work them. You might have to just cut like about a 1/2 inch slit in 2 sides on it so that you can get it started and then start working it down on there and stretch it. But bear with me now. I'm going to crank it up, and I'm going to give it a couple of revs and let the blow-off valve sing for you guys. I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Have a good day.